Cents Per Mile, featuring Charles Gracie and Paul Gibson, with loads of recruiting and marketing experience and backed by the largest driver audience in the world. We deliver carriers the driver perspective, find solutions, and help make sense make sense.
Thanks for tuning in to Cents Per Mile. I'm your host, Charles Gracie.
And I'm your co-host, Paul Gibson. What are we talking about today, Charles?
Side hustles, social media, all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes to build a brand.
Nice. All right, well, cool. So before we get to that, we're going to have to say the stuff that we always say. If you look around, we are on Amazon Music, Apple Music. We are on Spotify. We're on YouTube, anywhere you get your podcasts. So if you could like, subscribe, rate, and that helps us push this out a little bit further and helps us do more cool stuff going forward.
Yeah, you can also go to centspermilepodcast.com. You can suggest a topic to be a guest or even to become a sponsor.
Sponsor? Speaking of sponsors, who's our sponsor today, Charles?
TAFS. Factoring can be fun. Check out TAFS at TAFS.com.
All right, well, it's time to go to the news. All right, so it's time for 10-2 News, where we go over the most recent, interesting, crazy, relevant, or whatever we feel like stories that have hit the internet. So our first story comes from CDLLife. There was a semi-truck that burned to the ground as the driver shopped for snacks. So a semi-truck caught fire outside of a Quick Trip, with a K, in Wisconsin on Monday as the driver was inside of the store shopping for snacks. The fire happened at about 11:24 a.m. The Quick Trip in Tomah, Wisconsin on Monday, June 23rd. According to the fire department, the driver parked his tractor trailer and went inside the store, presumably to shop for snacks and possibly use the restroom. And then the driver returned to his truck. He found that it had caught on fire and quickly contacted the fire department. The fire department was able to contain the fire without anyone getting injured, and the cause of the fire is still undetermined. The truck was a total loss, and no further information has been released.
This is what I'd expect if, like, you went to a Buc-ee's with a truck, but Quick Trip.
Well, I mean, Buc-ee's, you wouldn't have been able to go in and get snacks. They would have stopped you.
Like, that truck can't be here, neither can you.
Hey, I will say this is a good example or good motivation, for people who have, less etiquette than others. And there's a good reason not to park in the fuel island.
This could actually become the poster child for that movement.
Yeah, maybe that's it. We just start
park at the fuel island, burn.
Yeah, right. Hey, but park at the fuel island gets out. What if your truck catches on fire? Man, that could actually, thinking about it, that could have been really bad. I'm also curious what caused it.
You know how people make the jokes about if we walk into the ATA, we might burst into flames?
Yeah.
I think this might be divine intervention for parking in the fuel island.
It might be. Yeah. Well, I mean, but they weren't parked in the fuel island. Otherwise, this would have been like national news. And there would have been a lot more than one truck that was a total loss. But also it could be, here in the Midwest and down south, there's Quick Trip with a Q, not a K. And maybe it was kind of like hey, you should come here, not there. I don't know.
Maybe they cleaned their truck with something other than bull snot.
Yeah. Hey. Okay, and so our next story is group warns that cargo theft expected to rise 22% in 2025 due to the digitalization in trucking and supply chain. So, increasing reliance on technology in the trucking industry is making it easier for cargo thieves to steal goods, the National Insurance Crime Bureau says. On June 25th, the NICB issued a warning on the growing risk of cargo theft caused by the increasing digitalization of the supply chain. The group said that cargo theft resulted in $1 billion in losses in 2023, and that cargo theft losses increased by 27% in 2024 to an all-time high. Cargo theft losses are expected to increase by 22% by the end of 2025 to hit yet another record high. The one thing they say is GPS jamming disrupts tracking systems that allows stolen cargo to be moved without detection. The NICB agents have confirmed confiscations of these devices in cargo theft incidents and noted frequently disabled GPS trackers, which are not concealed effectively. VoIP, such as text now, allows thieves to spoof legitimate carrier contact information and remain anonymous. These applications offer customers the ability to select utilize telephone numbers with any valid area code. Criminals are leveraging these services along with fictitious email accounts and alter Department of Transport records to impersonate companies, bid on shipments, and reroute freight to unauthorized drop locations. There's synthetic IDs, and there's phishing attacks. There's several different things that are going around, and they're seeing them used in a lot of these different things. And I mean, like My Carrier Portal, they do a lot of stuff, with freight fraud, and then we've just been hearing about it all the time recently. It's interesting to start to see like the things that are actually being used in the processes.
It's one of those things that's always evolving, man. Like freight fraud, I think it's always been there, but you're hearing it more now than you have before. And I wonder if part of that is due to the margins already being, stretched as far as they can go. So people are looking for savings anywhere. And this seems like a low hanging fruit thing that should have been dealt with over time. Like just do your due diligence and, be aware, educate your people, educate your drivers, educate your dispatchers.
Well, one, I would say that you're actually, you hear about it all the time, but you're going to hear about it 22% more this year, apparently. But the thing is, though, is I would agree and I would disagree with part of that sentiment because, I mean, all of this is, a lot of this is newer technology. And so it's like the same way that, they get old people with like gift cards, or the people who used to say, oh, I'm from Microsoft, there's so many new ways that constantly get developed that I don't know that it's necessarily something you could have nipped in the bud, because anytime there's a new rollout in technology, that you're going to have more people that have different access, different plans, different schemes to like make this happen. But that also kind of does.
It's not just old people, Paul. Like I told you the story about my fishing training, didn't I? Oh man. All right. Yeah. Publicly going to humiliate myself right now. So unnamed company did fishing training, mandatory across the board, had to do it. Mm-hmm. Good training. It was actually entertaining. It wasn't like watching one of those old orientation videos. Did the training, a couple weeks had gone by, email came by, said, hey, it came from the company, said, hey, we got free tickets for concerts, blah, 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 register here. I did all the things I normally do, but then I clicked on it and it said, you have to retake your fishing training because you clicked on the bad link. Now, if that wasn't bad enough, I was so impressed by the tactic of testing the training that I'm the dumbass that turned around and clicked it 3 other times to tell people and show them how cool that little test was.
Wow.
So not only did I get flagged for the training, but then I got flagged for clicking it 3 times afterwards to show coworkers like, hey, look at this cool training. Look at this test. And they're like, you're the only person in the entire company that clicked it 3 times after the initial click. I'm like, does that mean I have to do it 4 times?
Yep. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's, I don't know, man, you're kind of on the edge of that millennial Gen X kind of vibe. You're getting there.
Not cool, Paul. Not cool.
I mean, I don't think we're cool
Not
either.
all of us want to walk around in skinny pants.
Hey. I mean, also younger people don't do that anymore. It's old, I think being who I am, I'm like the equivalent of like what hair metal dudes were.
Yeah, do you notice kids are pulling their socks up all the way again?
Yeah,
like we used to hide them when we were kids, and now people are pulling them all the way up. I'm like, oh
yeah, okay. No, we're back to like the tube socks.
What's next?
With the stripes on them.
Parachute pants again?
Dude, Jinkos were a thing like a year ago. They tried to bring them back. I'm like, why do you want to wear pants that go like under your shoes? I remember that, but I mean, either way,
we're showing our age here on cents per mile today.
Right. It isn't just old people though. But the 90s are back, and that's frustrating. Now I know how my parents felt when I was in middle school, and they were like flared jeans, bell bottoms. I'm like, oh, weird. But if we could bring back the economy, that'd be great too. Right.
Get deep around it. You know what else we need to bring back?
The pre-industry before the Motor Carrier Act of 1980. Shot for the
getting
day.
Real deep. Getting
Sweet.
real deep.
But we do need to bring back Tenstreet from behind the desk. So let's do that. Behind the desk with Tenstreet up next.
Do you want to grow your fleet but get buried by paperwork, slow hiring processes, and outdated systems, all while struggling to comply with changing safety regulations? Enter Tenstreet, the all-in-one platform that simplifies driver lifecycle management by bringing marketing, recruiting, onboarding, safety, and retention together in one place. Tenstreet coordinates and streamlines all your operations. Post to dozens of job boards at once. Speed time to hire with pre-population and AI to get more full applications faster. And manage the entire post-hire process, from cutting costs with online onboarding to integrating all safety data into one dashboard, to improving retention through thoughtful engagement. Whether you have one truck or 1,000, our expert team is here to help. Sleep soundly knowing you can pass an audit, attract needed drivers, and achieve your business goals. Join the thousands of carriers using Tenstreet. Sign up for a demo today.
At TAFS, we offer unparalleled trucking excellence and service. Enjoy exclusive benefits like fantastic tire discounts and 1-hour advances for quick cash. Recognized as the top factoring company in 2023, we're your partner for success. Access business loans, manage finances with ease through our client portal, F2 fuel card, and mobile app. Contact us now to see how we can help your trucking business thrive.
It's time to make sense. And today we're trying to make sense of all the different things happening behind the scenes to build a brand for a company, for an individual. And there's a lot of side hustles that come with that and a lot of strings being pulled behind the scenes to make that work. And we had to bring in some big guns for this. So we have Ingrid Brown from BlackJack Express and Vann Brown from Brown Ox Ventures joining us. Welcome to the Cents Per Mile, y'all.
Well, thank you.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
It's early in the show. I tell everyone, reserve your judgment until afterwards.
I'm not scared. We both, and Brown and Brown, we really aren't related, but we still call each other family. So
actually, now that you said that, I just realized.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Ingrid and I have known each other for a long time.
Yes.
So.
Oh yeah. You both are just wonderful people. You have wonderful stories that are very different. I couldn't think of two better people to have this discussion with, because between the three of us, we've done exactly that behind the scenes. We built brands, extended ourselves out there. You got uncomfortable, got comfortable being uncomfortable. That's the name of the game. But each one of our paths is very different. So I thought it would be a great conversation, kind of roundtable style, to just talk about the differences in those paths, what it means to extend your brand out there, put your brand out there, align the messaging, all the things that go behind the scenes that people actually don't give enough credit to, because people think, oh, you just post on social media, and they don't realize how much goes into it. And it's more than just social media. There's a lot of thought that comes into the brands and stuff like that. So, Ingrid, I'll start with you. Tell us a little bit about your journey building the brand and like how that came about.
Years and patience. I've been out here 45 years this past December. And I think that probably building the brand for me started back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And again, I was one of less than 1% of women in trucking at the time, of women and drivers as a whole. So I think being as though I was an independent owner operator, as though, I was running cross country as I do now, coast to coast. And I just don't know when to shut up. And when I say I don't know when to shut up, I've never met a stranger. Don't ever put a challenge into me. I don't know anybody. My biggest way of doing that was actually wanting and being a sponge in the industry. I want the diversity. I've had the diversity of hauling every trailer that there is possible except car trailer, and that's because I can't fit out, my boat won't fit out the top rack of the window, and I don't want to fall on my head. Anyway, stop with the visual faces there. Anyway, so,
Unlike the radio, everyone can see our faces.
Can't help it.
Everybody that's listening to this has got a visual face on. I know it. But anyway, it literally has been built upon what I felt like my morals, my integrity, my respect. If I didn't build off of that, I don't feel like I would be where I'm at, because without giving that to everyone in my everybody I've met in the whole industry and worked with, I don't believe that my brand would have built. I don't believe my brand would have built without my word being true, not flip flopping, not being solid, not being somebody that when I told you something, I had facts to back it up with. I don't give opinions and I don't give advice. I give you my experience. Opinions and advice are worthless. There's nothing in them. They're hollow. There's nothing to go with. My experience, you can choose to which way you want to go by my experience, whether I succeeded, whether I failed, which we all do. So, yeah, it's still what I stand on today and still exactly what I've done, the hard work.
And that holds up, because it's one of those things where what works for you may not work for me, may not work for Vann. There is no cookie cutter mold to this stuff. When I was building the brand for Hot Seat and for Cents Per Mile, it was trial and error. If you look at the first episode of Cents Per Mile and you look at where it's at now, completely different. You would, other than Paul and myself, everything else is completely different.
Yeah.
And Hot Seat, I remember the first logo I had for Hot Seat. A lot of people don't remember that because it was before the brand had extended. But the first logo was a cartoon couch that was on fire, but it was a brown couch. So it almost looked like one of the ding dong ditch bags that someone would leave on Halloween and full of poop. And that was the ongoing joke. And then it wasn't on my brain when I was building the company. I was worried about the foundation of a company. The logo was way back thought. And then I quickly realized that logo is your identity. When you're a company, That's your brand. And I made the active effort early on to put a lot of focus on the brand, the messaging, putting it out there. And by no means, if you look at the earlier content, Paul testified to this, it wasn't the best, but it was out there. Because some very wise person, I'm not going to give him any credit by name, but some very wise person had given me advice early on that no matter how good of a job you do, if no one knows you do it, doesn't matter.
They're never going to know. Absolutely.
Yeah. So it was just an active effort where I took half of my profitable dollars and I invested into getting the logo, getting the brand, getting the messaging, getting the colors, getting it out there, and putting volume out there. It was a volume play. Put a bunch of stuff out there. It didn't have to be the best, but it was everywhere.
I'll be honest with you. I'm going to throw this in here a minute. I remember that first logo you did. I remember your first days. I remember seeing that, but I never knew and I never heard who you were. When I actually saw you come out and understood what you did and what your place was in the industry was when you started pushing and changing your logo, putting yourself out there, putting your face out there and your name. And then it was like, oh, I am tied to this now. And that was exactly, when you started building that brand, it was impressive. But at the same time, I had no idea who you were to start with. So, that's exactly what got me in touch with you, and then our paths crossed as well.
Well, exactly. And it's just like your brand, the integrity. I think people have to align the integrity with the name and the brand. And a lot of people are like, oh, I'm focused on building the company, not me. Generally, if you're a founder, if you're building something at that level, your name is what catapults the brand. Eventually, the brand gets its own identity, and depending on what paths you chart, it might go off one way while you go another. I haven't seen as many of those successfully implemented as I have seen them run parallel to one another. One catapults the other, and a good example of that is Vann, Bullsnot. Vann, I see you everywhere. And to Ingrid's point, like everywhere. But you've been around much longer than where I've seen you. And really, I started connected with your brand once I got connected with you. Like I've seen your brand. I knew what it was, but I didn't know nearly as much about it as I know today because of you and what you've done out there connecting yourself to your brand and just how fun you make it.
It is a lot of fun. I just got back in from Houston, Texas, the Texas Trucking Show. previous week, I was with you down in Calhoun. And this weekend, I'll be at Coonley Motorsports in Thompson, Ohio, for the uphill drags. That's going to be crazy. I'm going to do some ride-alongs in that one. But I have a lot of fun. I mean, there's no doubt. But building a brand, you just have to get out there and, be you and let people know who you are and what you stand for. And then you also have to have a product, in my case, that services the customer's needs. Every single Bull Snot product was built from a conversation with the trucker. They tell me what they wanted to do, and then I go develop it. Ingrid remembers me when I only had. Actually, Ingrid remembers me before there was even aerosols, and that goes back over a decade because the company's 20 years old. But back in the early days, I was selling tire mount lubricant, which was Bull Snot tire mount lubricant. I still sell it, but it's OEM to the major car manufacturers. I don't sell that to the general public anymore. And then from conversation with truckers, they told me what they wanted me to develop. The first product was visible, which wasn't visible in the start with. So branding's tough, but it was a love bug remover. It's what it was. It never was meant to be a glass cleaner, and that's the reason it removes bugs so well. But it's turned out to be a streakless glass cleaner. And if you asked me to develop a streakless or a glass cleaner, I would not have developed that product the way it's developed today. But it turns out,
it's one hell of a glass cleaner.
It is. Mistakes are awesome. I mean,
Dude, I used it on my truck, and I am very bougie when it comes to my truck. I love my truck. Don't put nothing on it that I wouldn't probably, get behind. And I used that when I was at the truck show. I had all kinds of stuff building up on it, and that stuff worked fantastic. It was great.
And Ingrid, do you remember what the original name of that product was?
I'm like remembering sitting at the table when you told us and told me about it. And let me tell you, I'm with you. No, remind me, and I'm sure I'm going to go, oh, gosh.
The original name of Visible was Clearview. It's cleared in VU.
Yes.
And Tony Justice and I, we took a trip to Washington, D.C. I was representing industry, and go ahead.
I was going to say the three of us and Andrea were in D.C. We'll tell you about this brand that we built together that we have just realized that go ahead.
But so this goes back a long time, obviously. But we were working with FMCSA on ELD mandates and trying to get some logic behind it. And so I was advocating for the trucking industry before anybody knew who I was. I mean, I was representing manufacturing. And so Tony and Andrea and Ingrid and all of us went to D.C. And on that trip, Tony says, Clearview sucks. He says, there's got to be a better name. and on that trip, that's when we named it Visible. And then every single product after that become a Bull, ABULL at the end. So,
and soon you're going to have Scratchable after that wipeout on Calhoun.
Yeah, that was a pretty good one. I mean, so I'm healing. I use curable on my wounds to make them heal. So that's what I was doing earlier in the show. I took my curable, and I was putting it on my wounds so that the skin doesn't dry out and it heals quicker. And it does.
And that's the thing. Like, both of you have taken completely different approaches with your brand, but there are similarities across the board to what I spoke about with having to stand out as well. It's just one of the biggest struggles I see people making, which I chose early on. I am going to be bold. I'm putting my brand out there. I don't care about challenging norms. I don't care about hurt feelings. It either resonates with you or if it doesn't. And if it doesn't, great. You can keep scrolling. You were probably going to keep scrolling anyway if it sounded like everyone else's. Yep. But if it stands out, I have a better chance of success. Yeah. And so, Ingrid, you've built your own personal brand attached to you. It is really attached to yourself. And Vann, you have built a brand that has kind of since splintered off, but it catapulted off of your personal brand. And I've done the same thing. It's not an easy feat. So what would be your number one advice for someone finding something that stands out, but also represents their brand?
Well, for me, you have to come up with a name that somebody remembers. Nobody forgets the bull snot. I mean, I work for a Fortune, 50 company. I mean, I work for some very large corporations, and we brought the McKinsey Group in. We paid it's around $3 million for them to name the product. And I'm not going to tell you the name the product. But I'll tell you, we've paid a lot of money, and we did a big launch, the whole 9 yards. And they followed up 6 months later with all the reporters that came in, and only 60% of them could remember the brand name. So if you're going to start build a brand, you got to have a product name people remember. Bull snot, nobody forgets. All you got to do is hear.
No, I want you on here as a sponsor just so I can say bull snot all the time.
John Boy and Billy say bull snot every day. I mean, they've had me on their show for 2 years. So
yeah, we gotta get our sales team on this, Paul. We gotta get Vann and bull snot so we could just say what the bull snot all the time.
John
wants to sing Paul's song.
We can have Paul make you a song. He does that.
We have one. We have one.
He has one.
Yep. And
but is it made by Paul?
Long haul Paul? Yeah.
Different
Paul.
I'm not about to try and outshine long haul Paul. That man's a legend.
Long haul Paul's a legend. My Paul wears skinny jeans, but he can carry a tune.
Mine would sound like bull snot.
but I mean, branding is huge, but even you just talk about taking risk and being bold. When I first come out with the brand name Bull Snot, I had some very negative feedback on LinkedIn, and it was a professor at Dartmouth University, of all places, that she sent me a nasty message that she is appalled by the name. And so I replied back to her, well, if you are, then you're never going to be a customer to start with, so it doesn't matter. And then that's the way I feel. I mean, the whole brand behind Bull Snot is blue collar. I mean, I am working with the working people to solve issues that they have, and they don't have a good solution for it. That's where every single product comes from, is talking to truckers, tell me what you want, and I'll make something to do it. And truckers, I love them. They're the best customers on the planet for one reason. They're honest. They tell you what they want, and if it don't do what they want, they'll tell you that too.
Well, they get lied to all day, so if they can have an honest conversation and carry it out that way, they're going to choose to do that every time. I don't think they can BS anyone, because they just get full of it all day from everyone else.
Yeah, and just like Ingrid, I guarantee if my products didn't do what I say they do, she would tell me, and she wouldn't hold anything back. She'd say, nope, that shit, you ain't doing that. Nope, change this. I mean, she'd be on me like a cat on a cricket. I mean, it'd be quick.
So one of the things I ran into when I was building mine was, because we're service based, we were building something that we wanted it to immediately connect to a product. And that is a struggle sometimes, finding that thing that someone can translate into the service or the product in the name. With Bull Snot, with Invisible. I mean, you got a line of those, and I imagine they're not always easy to connect to the bull at the end, but you've got a rhythm going and you run with it. With us, we had Rent a Recruiter, which was a play off like Rent a Center, Pay Per Hire, because I hated the third party term because it came with all the negative, preconceived notions of third party recruiting. So we went with Pay Per Hire. It is one of those things. It's a struggle for some people. Some people are trying to figure out how do you connect the brand to the service. And it's not as easy as when you're building your own personal brand where you can make it whatever you want. So before we wrap up the show, what would be your advice to someone that's struggling to figure out how to connect an identity to a brand or a service?
Making sure that you connect it with your name, what's your principle, and what you're actually doing with that. But I think the whole thing is you have to put yourself out there. If you don't put yourself out there first and foremost, you're not ever going to build a brand. There will be no brand without putting yourself out there. Take the risk, take the challenges, take the fortitude. I mean, you have to have every bit of it together. If there's fear in it, you're never going to succeed. Fear
So don't
is a
straddle the
killer.
line.
No, absolutely
Don't
not.
step
Get
over
off
it.
the fence. Get off the fence and jump.
I
You have
love
to.
that.
You have to.
I love
Get off
that. I'm the guy
fence.
that go truck yourself on the back of a carrier's trailers and look where I'm at. So
There you go.
I believe people
That's
try to
it.
straddle it too much.
It's
Yeah.
kind of like this new hashtag, this shit's stupid. You know, and it's literally, I mean, think about it. That could fit anywhere. But no, seriously. I mean, you have to take the first step, and after you take the first step, you have no choice but to move forward and jump in it, dive into it.
All right.
Fantastic.
Well,
And building the brand, I'm gonna add one thing: be accessible. That's the reason I go to all these truck shows all across the
Yes.
country. Is truckers know who I am, and they know if they got questions, just come and talk to me. Be accessible to them always, and listen. Listen more than you talk when you're talking to truckers, because they've been behind the wheel for 10, 12 hours, and they've got a lot to say. I mean, so listen more than you talk and be accessible, and you can build a brand.
Yes.
no, that's awesome. I appreciate you guys carving out some time to come on Cents Per Mile, but we got to wrap it up. Everyone, make sure to check out Vann Brown from Bullsnot, also Brown Ox Ventures, and Ingrid Brown from BlackJack Express. They're easy to find. Simple Google, and you'll find everything out that you need to know about both of them. But, Paul, it's time to turn this off. You know, we got to get back to our day jobs.
Learned a lot about building brands. I have no idea about that.
Well, thanks for tuning in to Cents Per Mile. I'm your host, Charles Gracie.
I'm your co-host, Paul Gibson. See you next time.